Gane is going to be fighting tonight at UFC 285 headline event. It's going to be one of his biggest fights of his career, going into the fight with a possible hand injury. I was sent a picture of his hand, and yes, there is something going on. What is happening? Let me give you my explanation. I'm Dr. Steve Mora. I'm a sports trauma specialist, and this is my injury break. This is what I can add to what's happening. First of all, I am privy to the same picture that everybody has seen. He's showing his fists. There's an obvious deformity. There is an incision or a healed scar over the top of his hand, over the third metacarpal. So first of all, let's start with some basics. The metacarpals of the hand are frequently injured in fighters. We've all heard of the boxer's injury, which happens when the hand strikes a hard object. Not only does it happen with boxers, but it also happens with people that are upset and they punch a wall. So boxer's fracture, very common in people that punch. The boxer fracture traditionally is the fifth metacarpal over here, but interestingly with Ciryl Gane, the scar is over the third metacarpal. So that would be the big knuckle that we all have if we make a fist. So what's happening, as far as I can tell, there's a humpback deformity right over the hand, right over the healed scar, humpback deformity. And the other thing that is noticeable is very subtle, but if you look at the picture, you actually do not see the third knuckle. It's actually sunken down. So what does that tell me? Well, what that tells me is that the metacarpal fracture has healed, and most likely healed with a humpback deformity or with a deformity. So what could have happened, or what led to this situation? Is it appropriate? Is this what the end result is supposed to be after a fracture? No, it's not. What probably happened was this: he fought and fractured his hand at his last fight in December. I believe it was December the 3rd. And at some point he had surgery, most likely within a week, let's just say. Okay, so he has a surgery of the hand. As you can see, there is a scar, so he had surgery. Now, what is done with a metacarpal fracture? Well, there's different ways to operate on a metacarpal fracture, and by the way, you don't always have to operate, but it must have been a significant deformity to have had to require surgery. So how do we fix metacarpal fractures? We can pin them, or we can plate them. Most likely a plate in this case. Why do I say a plate? Because there's an incision that's healed. It's a scar. So let's just say he had a plate that was placed over the metacarpal to hold the two bones together with a bunch of little screws. Now, mind you, these plates have to be very small because, after all, the bone is very small. So we put them on top of the bone and then we wait for it to heal. So let's just say that it happened. The surgery might have been in mid-December or early December. It normally takes about 2 or 3 months for a bone to heal solidly enough that you can punch again. So what probably happened was he may have started training a little bit early, because after all, you have to prepare yourself to fight. You have to be prepared to fight, and that's called starting fight camp. So if his fracture surgery was in early December, and by the time it healed, we're talking about February. Healed on x-ray, and he starts to train. So when you start to train, you have to start to punch, and most likely he lost reduction. We call it reduction, means the way that it was aligned, and it became humpback. So what's happening now is he has a humpback deformity with a bump over the top of the hand. The knuckle is now lowered. This knuckle is actually not really visible. Okay, and it's a very important knuckle for fighting, for punching. So that knuckle has sunken. What can we expect? Probably nothing. He should be able to fight, even though he has a humpback deformity. The plate might even be bent. The plate probably bent. The bone probably healed with a bow, and the knuckle went down. Is it going to affect his fighting if that's really what happened? Probably not. Bump on top of his hand is a problem, actually, because it's actually pushing on the tendons that extend your fingers. It's going to become a problem for the extension of these fingers in the future, and I would predict that he may have a second surgery to remove a plate. And of course, that's if he has a plate. And of course, if there's a deformity due to the plate and not just post-surgical swelling, but it really doesn't look like post-surgical swelling to me. In summary, most likely a loss of reduction or a malreduction with a humpback deformity of the metacarpal, a loss of the normal contour, loss of the normal knuckle, and most likely a little bit of pressure on the extensor tendon. Probably not a big deal. He'll probably do just fine. It is, after all, one of the biggest fights of his career, and he's just going to go out there and make it happen. Well, let's just see what happens, and let's just follow this story in the future and see if he ends up having a second surgery or not. Be sure to comment, be sure to follow so you can keep updated, especially if you found this video informative. And until next time, you guys take care.